hopefully resolved a little bit of our lighting issue. I do have a studio light behind the camera. It's not optimal, and I'm going to see what it looks like when I turn it off. Let's turn it off and see. Actually, I think I like that better. Garage door's open because the garage door's not open because the dog wants to go out and play with the neighbor children that are running around, and so I have closed that door. We're going to talk about a couple things. I have got some knives that I have been told are too big. And I've also been told that knives can't be cheap and good. So it's a couple of different topics we're going to talk about. Like I said, remember, keep it respectful. Be kind to everyone else in the comments. We don't do politics. We don't do religion. It's all like, I guarantee you saw that when you logged in. And my lavalier mic is getting, I have a replacement lavalier mic. So if the audio sounds different, it's because I'm using just the native microphone built into the transmitter for my Rode Go system. So I saw that there was 2 people here. Now there's no people here. So I do have some relatively large knives in my collection here at the house. And I've been told by a few people that those knives can be too big. I've pulled some of them out. We got a bunch of knives here, but big knives. Hey, what's up, Stephen Wallace? I have not seen you on here in a long time. I've been told that sometimes knives are too big, but I've also been told by other people that there is no, oh, I forgot something. Give me a moment. I'm going to go set up my coffee. But I've been, when you guys get here, I've been told that some knives are too big because they can be unwieldy. And I do agree that there are knives out there that are too big. Let me turn this light back on, see if that helps. You guys tell me whether this is better with that light on. Does that help or hinder? I'm on the fence how I feel about the light behind me being on. I think that's better. So like I was saying, there can be a fine line between a knife being too big and becoming problematic when you look at size. To put things in perspective, like I said, I am 6'3" tall. I wear triple XL gloves. I'm about 230 pounds-ish. This is not a small knife. Even by my standards, this is a fairly big knife. But this knife is not. Now, you're not ever going to be able to get this knife. This company is basically folded. Let me try something here. I think I'm going to have to open the garage door. Chunky, come here. Come on, in the house, bud. Up, house. In the house. We got to put the dog in the house. The neighbor kids are playing. So go in the house, in the house, in the house, in the house, in the house. There we go. That just gives us a good bit more light there. Not so much. But at any rate, like I said, this knife is not unwieldy. This knife's very comfortable. It was well built, it's well made. This is just a really, really good knife in my opinion, but this was from a company that was famous for doing something that they called functional, fantasy functional. And then they folded and things like that. There are knives that are big, yet still very, very functional. This is the Work Tough Gear Grizzly. This knife does not feel unwieldy. This knife feels like it should. It's got the proper balance. It's got really good grip. It's got a large blade for a specific purpose. We saw this in yesterday's video. There are knives, however, that when they get too big, feel uncomfortable and unwieldy. And I have an example of it. It's not even that big of a knife. As much as I like this knife, for its aesthetics. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is. As much as I like this knife for its aesthetics, here it is. This is the Gerber Harsey Hunter. And it's not long. It's not that big of a knife. Hey, welcome from Minnesota. This is a knife that just doesn't feel comfortable at this size. It feels like you're too far removed from the work surface and things like that. And that winds up being the problem on some knives. And it has everything to do with the design. This knife was not designed, in my opinion, in a way to utilize its length. It feels too long. When your hand is in a specific point, at that point, that's where you're supposed to be able to use it, and it just feels like you're too far removed from the tip of that knife. A lot of folding knives suffer from that. A lot of folding knives suffer from that additional length. There's a lot of knives, as much as I love this one, you can't use this knife the way you can use some other knives because of the length. Cold steel has a few fixed blades that I think are too big, and I have one of them. As much as I love it, I have one right here, which is absolutely a blast to have. Oops, sorry, I hit the platform that you guys are on, and I'm filming at a different angle, so it feels weird. We may raise or lower this in a minute because I feel like I'm too far down, or you guys are too far up and I'm too far down. Let's do this. Does that help? Now, did the audio change? Because if I bump this cord until I get a new adapter, if I bump the cord, I lose the audio. And guys, if you're here, please drop a like. This is a great, great knife. This is the Cold Steel OSS. But this knife is about that much too long, in my opinion. It would be much more easy to utilize this blade, and it would be much more nimble if it had about that much of the knife removed. Like if it was a shorter version of this. This is a fighting knife. It's designed for specific things, but I feel this feels unwieldy. It feels as though it's too long. This knife is about that much too long. I think if the tip was there, you'd have better control of the knife, easier to use it for its design purpose. And so I really think that this knife wound up being way longer than it should have been. As much as I love it, it's a great knife, it's gorgeous, it's awesome, but it definitely suffers from that. Now, there are some exceptions. Like I said, a lot of times folding knives have a tendency when they get too long. I'm probably nailing that. I'm sorry if I wish I had my my lavalier. I had to send it in. They're replacing it. Should be a new one. Should be here today. So they sent me an RMA, and I sent the old one off. Where did I put the sheath for this? A lot of times people gravitate to these big knives because they look cool. They're what you. I always forget to do that. I forget to put my reading glasses on, and then I'll wind up with a headache trying to read these comments. Guys, I'm sorry about the light. Let's turn this on and see. Maybe that will even things. Nope, that's going to give us a reflection off my glasses. There's just no real good way to do this unless I move us over to where I used to film and set up everything and do it that way. And it's just uncomfortable. Maybe next time I'll do that. Maybe I'll set up the little filming station. At any rate, folding knives are the ones that really seem to suffer from that. And it has a lot to do with how folding knives are done and the limitations of blade to handle ratio and grip. This knife does not. This knife is 9 1/4 inches. It does not feel that long. What happens is from the pivot to the tip, what happens is the further you get, the less you can use that blade. And a knife easily can become too big. There are some companies that mitigate that very, very well. Cold Steel has a lot of really good big folding knives. We looked at this one yesterday. The XL version of this is supposed to be coming today. There's a larger version of this. This does not have that feel. It does not feel like it's too big. Some of it has to do with how the tip is swept up and your work surface is actually here, not up here. You're not doing fine detail work with this like you would with other knives. But this does not feel as big as it actually is. 12 1/4 inches overall. It doesn't feel like it's too far removed. And a lot of that has to do with how many different handholds you have on this. Like that does not feel as easy to control in this rear grip like that as it does in this forward grip. And it feels way more easy to control all the way up here like this. So as a knife designer, you kind of have to keep that. Like that was one of the first things that I thought of because I knew that there were so many knives out there that just felt out of sorts with themselves. This knife, horrendous. The one we looked at yesterday. I already filmed a video about this earlier today. And that's how I found out my lavalier mic wasn't working properly. I had to fight with it. It's got a, I think it's just got a broken connector. This just completely feels useless. It's too big, it's too long, it's too skinny. Nothing about this is good. We talked about that. And guys, drop a comment. Let me know what you got going. I see I've got people from New Zealand. I hate me, cut your arm today. It's not a good thing. Seek professional help. I'm not a therapist. I'm not here for that. I'm not going to give you at all any good advice. So a lot of times I was really cautious about maximizing the utility. Like, this was my design. I wanted the utilitarian area, and people are like, why do you put a finger choil on knives? It allows you that option of getting closer to the area you're working and having more control. If you are limited here with this, then if you're limited back here, you're further removed, right? You're further removed from the area of the tip where you're going to have the maximum control, and it just feels out of sorts. So adding that additional choil allows you to move from this very powerful grip into a more controlled grip and getting up on it and being able to do things. And so people complain about it like, oh, you're giving up blade. You're not really giving up blade you're going to use. Most people use this portion of the blade for most of what they're doing. And if you get up here, then you have more control of where you're going to put that. I have much more control of that blade in this grip than I do in this grip. It just, you're further removed, your angles, your movements are going to be more exaggerated. And so getting up on it like this and being able to have that control is a very good thing. But being able to have multiple grips allows you to kind of compensate if you need to get a little bit more reach. If you want to be able to get it in a reverse grip for stabbing coconuts. Know what I mean? So when I was designing knives, that was my primary thought process. Like, how much handle, how much blade, where's that point where I want that balance so that I have really good control of this knife. Some companies don't do that. Some companies just give you this big, long knife, and like I said, it becomes unwieldy. The balance points and things on a knife, the balance point on a knife is a very important thing. You want something that feels comfortable in hand, has got a nice balance, is easy to control. The longer the knife gets, the harder that becomes. Like I said, there are real good exceptions to that. There's several larger folding knives in the, where did I put it? I just took it out of my pocket. The 9 1/4 inch realm, where a lot of knives start to lose that comfort level and control level. This doesn't, and a lot of that has to do with ergos and curvature of the blade and the alignment of the tip to the hand and where things are. And the surface you're going to be using. This knife has got a recurve, so the surface you're going to be using is further back, right? And then you're using this predominantly for heavy, this area here for heavy cutting, and then this is that surface. You're not using the tip of this knife for things. You're using more this area for some of your fine detail work. The nice thing about certain blade shapes is you can be larger. It can be larger and still be easy to control. But the fact is, going back to the large, what is this? Well, this was a multi-use knife. So this knife was designed to be, because I was in the military, I never liked the knives we got issued. I didn't like the combat knives we had. This was my take on what I would have wanted, which was something that I still could have used as a fighting knife if I needed to. It's still functional in that role, but yet still do all the smaller tasks that you would want a knife to do, because a lot of the big combat knives like this, which was an issue item, this is not functional. It does not feel good. And in any grip, it just does not really feel nimble and useful. It's really hard to do any tasks with this. Same with the K-bar. You can do a lot of tasks with this, like cutting line, cutting rope, making, you know, sharpening a pencil, cutting something loose from packaging, you know, any of the small duty tasks that you would do with this, because the K-bar, the actual K-bar, which I have one, this is my K-bar. Actually, no, this was one that I got for my father before he passed away. This is not the one I had. I think mine is in my gun safe. So this is, it's your average size K-bar. This is an issue item. This knife is not good for utilitarian purposes. It really isn't. This is a very, very iconic knife, but it's too big. And the shape of it is too big. And I have some other knives we're gonna look at that are too big. There's a real fine line between big cool factor. What do you use it for? That was just a knife that I was issued when I was in the military. You can't use that for anything. It's not trench warfare, 1940s, World War II anymore. This, much more along the lines of what the modern soldier would need, not as big, you know, not as big, not as unwieldy, much more useful, better carry options, and not taking up as much space. And with this, you don't need a second knife. If I've got this, if I was carrying this in the field, I would not need a pocket knife. 9 times out of 10, military guys have got their issue knife, their great big K-bar, or something along these lines that was also an issue item, or a cold steel SRK, one of those big unwieldy combat knives. And then you can't do any small tasks, so you've got a smaller knife in your pocket. So it's like walking that fine line. I have found that, like, here's another example. This is a replica of the knife that, I mean, this is a one-for-one replica, but this is a replica of the knife that Arnold Schwarzenegger used in the movie Commando, right? This is not a good knife. And we did a video about why, but on top of the fact of construction standards on these type knives and the handles and things like that being completely, that's very inappropriate, Mike. On top of all of that, this knife is unwieldy, it's too big, it's too long. And I mean, like I said, I have handled a real life support system from a Jack Crane, like an actual Jack Crane, and this is a movie replica of the one from Commando. They are one for one. It is not a good knife because of the way the handle is and the way, you know, you don't have any indexing and just the way things are built, and it's too big. It is just too effing big. So I've started to notice over the years in my knife journey, big knives are always cool. I dig big knives. They're a lot of fun. But I found when I really look at what I find to be the most useful, it's something that's following in, you can say whatever you want, Jason Cameron, but don't say it here. Political opinions and religious opinions are a lot like your pecker. They're fine to have, just don't pull them out in public. I was gonna make coffee. So at any rate, I have found that I gravitate to knives that are in the smaller form factor. They're easier to control, they're easier to use. This knife is very, very nimble. This knife is very, very nimble. It's very easy to use. It is easy to carry. It doesn't take up any space. And I can use this much more readily than I could a larger knife. Right? This is so much easier to use, even in a self-defense form factor. So larger knives aren't always the answer. Now, like I said, there are exceptions. This is a very comfortable to use large knife, 12 and a quarter inches overall, the largest spot. I have the 15-inch version coming. There's also a 14-inch cold steel over here. These are comfortable and easy to use for some things. Like this, incredibly easy to maintain the use of this knife, but then again, I'm not using the tip of this knife. I'm gonna tip, I want you guys to not say it. So since you're using this section of the knife, you're not using the tip. That means that you're not so far removed on the pivot from where your hand is to where you're actually using. The tip of this is not really going to be used. This is the portion of the knife that you're going to use. So design and things like that can lend themselves to being at a larger form factor, easier to use. Now this is a pocket knife. It has a pocket clip. I've carried this. But this is a camp knife. This is a kukri. This is something that you can use for a lot of stuff. And it's not a stupid size. This is not your average person's carry. This is something that you're going to carry to go camping and things like that. This is basically the folding equivalent of something like this. This is a heavy-duty outdoor camping knife and things like that. This is a camp knife that you can use. This is a true survival knife. You can use this for so many things. It is big and heavy. You got to either strap it your back, put it on a pack, things like that. It takes up a lot of space when you could easily take this and throw it in your pack. And this does a lot of things. You can get on this, you can do planing and things like that. Yeah. I can ban you, and I have moderators that stick to. I don't like banning people. I just want people to be nice and kind and things like that. But this is kukri, and it allows you a lot of cutting potential. You still have finer areas you can work on. You can get up on this, and you can do some things like feather sticking and stuff like that. But then you have that weight forward for chopping, and you have multiple handholds. This knife does not feel too big. What was the fixed blade? That is the Work Tough Knives, or Work Tough Gear Grizzly. This is one of the best outdoor knives I've ever purchased. And guys, if you're here, drop a like. It brings more people to the show. This is from a company, they do limited runs of things. They do limited runs of these knives, and so they might be hard to get. This thing is great. Well, Justin, it's like in the middle. So it's like a machete, but it's not as thin and fine and crappy as, say, an actual machete. This is just a big, heavy chopper knife. And surprisingly easy. Remember when I said like changing those grips and things like that? Surprisingly easy to use. I did a lot of testing on this. But there's other large knives that find themselves very, very easy to manipulate and use. Speaking of a knife, this is the Cold Steel Triple Action. This is probably one of the best fighting knives. Just so you guys know, I took martial arts for years. I've done edged weapons. I know how to use a weapon. This knife is just about a perfect fighting knife, even though it's a rather large knife, right? This, very easy to manipulate, super nice balance, the handle shape and everything like that, means that this knife, even though it's rather large, I think it's 13.5 inches overall, really easy to manipulate and nimble as a much smaller knife because of the weight balance. I didn't ban you yesterday, Cyprian. Much easier to manipulate and very nimble compared to the size of what you would expect. And everything has to do with weight placement, balance, handle shape, where you've got that thin area where your hand's up here and then you've got the grip back here. So really a surprisingly nimble, large knife. I didn't think it would be either. However, with the weight balance and the type of grip that you have on this and how it's contoured, this is very nimble. And so you still have very, very good control, and yet it's super, super easy to manipulate. And you would not expect a big knife to be that nimble. And in case any of you guys want to know, the aftermarket sheath, because I had people ask last time, this is a custom sheath from Savage Made Sheaths in Saxis, Virginia. If you're looking for a good, I think this was 60 bucks. If you're looking for a good option for a sheath, he does these. You basically tell him what knife it is. He'll tell you we can do it. This is about the perfect style sheath for this because the way it cants out, it's really easy to carry. I love this knife. Other big knives, but what I was saying is big knives. Big knives aren't always the answer. You can do most of the things that you can do, unless you're going out, like I said, with that great big chopper that I showed, the Work Tough Grizzly. If you go out with that knife into a specific scenario, it's great, and you may need that. But 9 times out of 10, for most of us, this is about the size fixed blade you need. No, I do not have 100 big knives. I have a lot of big knives. This winds up being a very, very comfortable size. It's easy to carry. It's easy to use. It's just about the perfect size. It's just about the size of a small kitchen knife, like a boning knife. But it's done as an outdoor fashion. This thing is probably the best small fixed blade knife I have been given. This is a full custom. They're not expensive. Lon Humphrey Customs. You can find these with my link down below for knives ship free, I believe, is one of his vendors. I have links down below you can use if you're looking for it. Just look up Lon Humphrey, LONHUMPHREY. It is a full custom knife. However, this is only about 300 bucks. And this is how it came in this sheath. This thing's great. I carry this all the time. I don't trust a magnetic sheath. I've seen people talk about those magnetic sheaths that you can clip on and things like that. So keep your side conversations at least fairly family friendly. I try to keep the channel at least PG because I do have a bunch of younger viewers. I started doing that, so if you guys ever wonder why I don't curse in my videos, and if I do, I beep them out. Sometimes I will curse. When I get wound up in a live feed, I'll get to cursing. And so what happens is, what happened was when my daughter was younger, she told me some of her school friends found out that I had a YouTube channel and started following it. So she was in elementary school. So I really kind of tailored my content to be as family friendly. I used to take Japanese swordsmanship. I was stationed in Japan for 13 years. I have 2 swords over here. The Espada XL. All right. I don't have the XL. It's supposed to be here. It was supposed to be here earlier. And I checked the shipping notification, and apparently it's still in Henderson, Nevada. I was told it was going to arrive today. I don't have the XL, but I do have the large. And if you saw me in a short talking about it, I misspoke. I don't have the XL. I have the large. I have it coming. The XL should be coming. I'm not sure. I've never handled the XL. This is a very unique knife. And I understand why the Navaja that it's based on has been so popular for so many years. This is 12 1/4 inches overall. Hang on, I got the box for it here. This is the Espada. The large Espada is 5 1/2 inch blade, 12 1/4 inches overall. It's only 9. I mean, I say it's only 9 and at 9.2 ounces. But to tell you the truth, that's really not that heavy for a knife this big. And it literally will go in your pocket and you forget that you have it. Depending on what you're doing, this could be the perfect knife for you. That's the thing about knives. There is no one perfect knife out there for everyone. This is just a really nice, really big knife. And I'm doing a video about is bigger better. And I'm going to try and come up with some mildly suggestive thumbnail for that. But this has its limitations. It really does have its limitations. If the blade is over a certain length in some states, they are illegal. Not necessarily states. Most states are pretty liberal about that. What you find is municipalities. I was explaining this yesterday. So we're talking about big knives. I can carry any of these knives here in San Diego. I can carry any of these knives here in California. And everybody's like, oh, that's surprising. And so the deal you have here that you have to worry about in some states like California, I'm not saying it's not, it's the majority of states, basically blanket across the board, you can carry pretty much almost anything, except like New York and a couple others. What happens is cities will like make a distinction. Like in Los Angeles, I could never carry this. I could never carry this. Los Angeles, you can never carry this because they have a 3-inch blade limit. Here in San Diego, I can carry whatever size folding knife I want legally. I just throw it in my pocket and carry it. Fixed blade, I can carry any fixed blade I want as long as it doesn't meet certain requirements for the style of blade. I can carry any fixed blade I want as long as I carry it open carry, not concealed. And so it's kind of a funny thing where I can carry anything I want in San Diego, and like I've said a few times, I've carried this to the store. I carry this knife almost daily, and 9 times out of 10 I forget I'm carrying it, and I carry it, and it'll go to Walmart for that, and with this, and forget that I'm carrying it. Where I have to be careful is if I'm carrying this, because this I carry scout carry on my belt horizontal, and a lot of times it's carried by it's covered by my shirt, and so this is a no-no, and this one's okay because this one you carry vertically. It's just that weird thing. Like I can carry a knife, a large fixed blade as much as I want, as long as it's open carry. I can carry the largest folding knife I have. Like I can legally carry this in my pocket, 15 inches overall length on this. This is not mine, this is my buddy's. I don't particularly like this knife, but I can put this in my pocket and carry it concealed, yet I can't carry this concealed. It's just weird. It's kind of a weird dichotomy. But back to knives being too big. We were talking about the Espada when you guys. I don't think that this is perfect. I don't think this is perfect. The trolls. See, here's the thing. I promised that I was not going to feature the trolls anymore. And so FBI Williams can, you know, I guarantee that, like, he's just all like if you shined a flashlight on him, he'd be transparent because he lives in his grandmother's basement and shit like that. And, like, his boyfriend Bubba comes over and, you know, they rub each other down with Vaseline, and then he cries when he puts it in his booty. So, yeah. The larger knives aren't always what you want. Even in the folding knife, a lot of people would not carry this because it is too big. Now, like I said, with me being a larger guy, this is a 9 1/4 inch knife. Does not at all feel out of sorts for me. It's not too big. I do find that there is a sweet spot for knife size, and I had set one. Oh, here it is. This is just about perfect. This is the Ferro Monster. This is a knife that came in for review not too long ago, and it winds up being such a perfect size. It's just about. Let me see here. Where's my ruler? Where's my ruler? I can't remember the specs on it. This is just at 3. This is just at 3 inches on blade length, and so just at 3 inches on blade length. Overall length on this open is, I think it's 6. Nope, it's just at 7. So this thing's a really, really good knife. And I think that I've found that this is kind of in the sweet spot for what I want in a knife. I'm having a hard, there we go. This is about in the sweet spot of what I want for knife size. It's easy to carry. It's not intrusive. If you pull, sometimes these knives don't look. Sometimes these knives will look intimidating. And if you pull something out of your pocket that is like, even though this is not illegal, I guarantee this, if I pulled this out in public at like Costco to cut a piece of pizza, I've done things like that before. We go to Costco, my daughter will get a piece of pizza, and I'll cut a piece of pizza in half for her when she was little to make it easier for her to handle. And I would pull out a larger knife, and people are like, oh. I'm like, I'm not doing anything illegal. So, and guys, if you're here, please double tap the screen and drop a like. So I still carry large knives. The other thing too is, a lot of times I will find myself carrying a larger knife and another knife, like a smaller knife. I have been carrying this in my watch pocket a lot as a secondary knife, just because I wanted to get this little buck knife out and carry it and see if I still liked it. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna have my Swiss Army knife in my pocket, because a larger knife is not always gonna be the best option. This knife is great. This knife is probably I'm not saying probably, this is the best knife I've ever purchased. This is my knife of the year for 2024. Absolutely love this. It's in my pocket daily. I can't do everything I want with this knife. It is a little bit more robust in the thickness. And it's not the behind the edge that you run into. It's when you're cutting things and then these areas where the termination of the grind is, it can bind up on things. Super, super thin blade, super sharp. Always great to have a small knife in your pocket for smaller tasks. It's much easier to do a fine, small task with the small blade on this Swiss Army knife than it is with a 9 1/4 inch tactical, aggressive looking knife. Even though this is a great knife, it has its limitations. Another knife that I carry a lot in my pocket is this. I like the traditional slip joint knives, because in concert with other knives, this winds up being the perfect combination. Nice, little, thin. This is the Sweetwater Creek Senator by Rosecraft Blades. They did an amazing job on this knife, and it is about a perfect size knife for doing things that maybe the larger knife that's in your pocket can't do. I carry this knife a lot, and it is similar to the last knife we looked. It's similar to this one. It's at about 9 1/4 inches. It's a great knife. You can do a lot of stuff with it. It's nice and thin. It's got that thin profile for doing some heavier cutting. Very, very sharp, very slicey. But if you need to do anything fine detail, like you need to use the tip of the knife for something, you're now pretty far removed from where your grip is. And as you get older, you start to lose some of the fine motor skills. Especially, I have nerve damage in my right hand. So a longer knife like this, I have a harder time. Like, say I needed to pick a splinter out of my finger. I'm not pulling this out of my pocket for that. Pulling this out of my pocket for that. So big knives are just one of those topics that, you know, some people love them. I like them. Some people don't. Like I said, I have several knives that, like this little custom Morgan, is just about a perfect knife size, nice little pocket sheath. There's just so many options available. Guys, hang out for a second. I have to go, I'm gonna let the dog back out, and I'm gonna make a cup of coffee. And I wanted to grab I forgot something. Give me just a moment, and I shall return. It won't be long, I promise. Hopefully you guys should still hear me. I had the microphone set up properly before we started, so that should mean that you guys still have audio. It won't take me long. I'm just throwing a little coffee in the Keurig here. There we go. There are another topic we're going to talk about. I had said there was a couple topics, so we just talked about big knives. And I think we've beat that horse about to death. But like I said, the whole thing about knives are, depending on what you're going to do, that's going to dictate whether you want a big knife, a small knife, folding knife, fixed blade knife. There's no limit. There's so many options available. Keep it up, man. Not to man people out there reviewing knives. Huh? I don't know. Well, thank you at any rate. If you like me, you like me. Next thing we're going to talk about is cheap knives. And there's two sides of cheap knives. Cheap knives can be just that. They can be cheap. And I don't mean cheap like, oh God, that's crappy. Oh, was the audio fine when I went into to start the coffee? I'm just curious because I've had problems with audio over the last few days with these microphones. So you run into two things with cheap knives. Cheap knives can be, and when I say cheap knives, just that, they're cheap. They're I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm saying cheap. There's a difference between cheap and crappy. You can get some expensive knives that are crappy. I had a bunch of them. And you can get some budget knives, because typically you have cheap knives, and then you have budget knives, and then you have your more mid-tier, like more expensive knives when you start getting into the couple $100s and things like that. But guys, I need to know about the audio. So just please let me know, because all I have to do is reconnect the cord if the audio did get worse, like if you guys lost the audio. So, oh, coffee's done, by the way. So there's a lot of knives out there that can be cheap and good. And then there's some knives that are just cheap and cheap. There's a couple brands out there that are just famous for making cheap, shitty knives. Frost Cutlery is one of those. Every once in a while you get a little gem. I do have a chip away cutlery knife here, and it's chilly today, guys, here, even though it's Southern California. Frost Cutlery are famous for things like this, these shitty plastic, and I know I'm cursing a little bit, but we're far enough into it, I think most of the kids are gone. They don't have the attention span. This is just a crappy, like $5 Frost Cutlery style knife. This is a cheap knife. It's also not a good knife. I have one here that is a cheap knife that is just awesome. This is an Opinel number, this is the number 6. These are incredibly affordable, and they are a very, very good ring lock knife that they've been making in France for hundreds of years. This one is in carbon steel. I don't know, I heard, somebody told me they stopped making the carbon steel ones. I personally prefer the carbon steel ones. They do get a patina on them. I prefer these. They're great. They sharpen up nice. Everybody's like, oh, you're just always about like stainless. This is a carbon steel Opinel. I love it. These are incredible to have. They're easy to sharpen. They are affordable. They're nice and light. You can just throw one in your pocket. When I was downrange, you would see a lot of the tribesmen in North Africa. They would have them shoved in their headgear like this and would carry it like that. It is very easy. It's like putting a carpenter's pencil in there. They're nice and comfortable. Beechwood handles. And these things, I don't know how much they are. We can find out. Let me go grab my other electronic device. I do have the wealth of human knowledge at my fingertips. And I can grab my coffee at the same time. So the Opinels are super affordable. And they are, I mean, for bang for your buck, they are some of the best you're going to get when you're looking at, I'm trying to I'm trying to get back to you guys. I'm sorry. I know this is weird, but like you get a live feed with me, you get everything that my morning entails. So I'm having my second cup of coffee. Oh, I have to update you guys on something. I do have to update you guys on something. I have an appointment with the cardiologists. How was the audio? When I went in there, how was the audio? Did it change? Or were you guys able to still hear me nice and clear? So these Opnels, this specific one, we'll go ahead and we'll look at this. This is the Opnel. I don't even know how you spell it. Openel. Number 6. So this specific knife is $13. Guys, did the comments shut down or what? Because like I have been asking you guys a couple questions and I have seen. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had it changed. I had it set wrong. I'm sorry. Let me get through here. So let me. My comments apparently froze. I just wasn't seeing them. Sound fine. I apologize. I'm going through the comments now. I'm trying to get back up to where I was. Apparently, I had to reset. Wow. I need to go through this. So there we go. You cross draw when you're sitting like that with gun. I don't cross draw. I have a shoulder holster. Like, so if we're talking about firearms, I do have a shoulder holster. If I'm carrying here at the house, which a lot of times I am. Right now, there's just one within reach. I have a shoulder holster. Sorry, guys, if I missed any of your comments, I'm not even going to try. I got so far behind, it just froze up. I'm sorry. So apparently audio was... the audio was working fine. These are $13. And this specific one, apparently they still do make the carbon steel one because this is the exact same one. These are 13 bucks. And for a $13 knife, you're not going to get much better than, these Opnels. Oh, crap. Sorry. I'm doing something on my end here. What's better in your, what's better in my opinion is you taking your disgusting ass out of my comment section. Go back to your crack hoe mom and ask her that question. The trolls, that's not for you guys. That's the trolls. 13 bucks, you can't get a better knife at the price for 13 bucks for utilitarian purposes. Thinness, it cuts really well. Like I said, easy to maintain. You can sharpen it on a coffee cup. It's nice and thin. You can sharpen any knife on a coffee cup, to tell you the truth, but the ease at which you can do it with this and just maintaining it is great. And then you've got that really super thin behind the edge thickness. It's like having a really thin box cutter blade that you can just resharpen it and things like that. So bad trolls. Yeah, you're right, Acid. So these are great, and they come in a bunch of different sizes. So number 6 being one of the smaller ones. Number 8, what do I have, an 8? I have another one here. I have an 8 or a 10. I can't remember what it is. Here it is. I have one that a guy sent me that he had modified. And so this is an Opnel number 10. Much bigger. He had done some things to it. He heat colored the blade. So I don't know what the heat treat on this is going to be like now. And he put some stuff on it for like finger grips. But this was a gift from one of my subscribers a long time ago. Let's see here. Mohammed, you're not, here's the thing. Mohammed, you don't just see, you get to go buy. Go find some goat. Your 72 virgins, maybe guys. Just a bunch of you up there after your bye-bye vest goes. So what's better, folding knives or regular? It just depends. It depends on what you're doing. This is going to be a better option for robustness, you know, strength, things like that. A lot of times blade stock, the comfort you get from a fixed blade is not ever going to be matched by a folding knife because, well, most folding knives, the lock mechanism gets in the way. They got pocket clips and things like that. So a fixed blade is going to be a really good option, especially if you're doing tasks where you need to have the knife, use it, and put it away quickly. Another factor, the reason that I designed, the reason that I really came up with this design at the time I was working construction, and I wanted a knife that I could carry, so I made a few. I wanted a knife that I could carry easily. This is a design that I did. I wanted something that you could easily use. And if you've ever worked construction, you know you're wearing those rubber impregnated gloves or leather gloves and things like that. So you got to take your glove off. You gotta take your glove off. You got to open the knife. You got to mess with the action. You got to close it. You got to put it back in your pocket, and you put your glove back on. And the other thing is, knives like this, as good and robust as the new locks are, on a lot of these knives, like this and some of the others, on a job site where you're doing digging and you're moving stuff and you're getting muddy and you're getting dirty, stuff gets in there and you have to clean these up. A small fixed blade does not suffer from that problem. A small fixed blade doesn't have a mechanism to gum up. So it just depends on what you're doing, you know? The ease of having a knife in your pocket for some things is great. The comfort you get from some other knives, if you're doing a lot of tasks, you know, may be something you want to use a fixed blade for. So there's no real good answer for that. I do like some of the fixed blades that you can get now, some of the smaller ones, like the smaller, easier to carry small fixed blades. As much as this is a very ugly knife, this is a small little neck knife. This is a great little knife. I don't like it because it's hideous. My paying member Will B sent this to me as a joke. And over time, I have really taken a shine to this knife. This is the Bowie Minimalist by CRKT, and I typically don't like CRKT knives. You get a lot with this knife, and this could be something that bridges that gap between a small fixed blade and a folding knife. And it glows in the dark. It glows in the dark. I did not find that out until one night I was out here in the YouTube studio, and I had the lights on and everything, and I was shutting everything down to leave, and this hangs up over here with a couple other little neck knives that I carry. I have a couple other little, this is a little self-defense push dagger that I carry. And it was hanging up over here on the other side because, you know, when I leave, I go out through this door here, and my car is there, and sometimes I'll just grab one of those on my way out before I go somewhere. And I saw it was glowing, and I turned off the lights. So I was like, what is that knife glowing? And so, yeah, that knife absolutely glows in the dark. So those are knives that, okay, so that knife, that's something, if you're on top of me, I'm going to deploy and get. And I'm not carrying a knife for an offensive purpose. I'm not the aggressor. I'm definitely if I'm carrying a knife and I'm carrying it for self-defense, it is a definite self-defense. I'm not the aggressor. I'm not going out and committing crimes. So I don't need a big knife where I can get up on somebody. I'm probably using the knife simply to extricate myself from a situation. That's why I like this knife so much. I like this knife. It's a pretty good knife for that. Easy to get to, easy to keep grip on, and it's got a blade that is going to allow me to do that. But we're talking about cheap knives. So this knife is cheap. This knife I designed, it's about $30 to $50 depending on what configuration. Do I have 20/20 vision? With my reading glasses off, I have better than 20/20. The problem is at 50, I can no longer focus on small objects, so I need reading glasses. That's why I have the reading glasses, is so that I can read your comments. I don't need it for anything out past the length of my arm. Unfortunately, your text on here is very, very small, and I need my reading glasses. But no, and I don't wear glasses for anything else. Just up close on my phone and reading. So there's cheap knives that are really good. Like I said, cheap knife. It's amazing. This thing, the company that I designed this for did an amazing job, right? Cheap knife. It's still really, really good. That Opinel that we looked at, that's a cheap knife. Really, really good. Yeah, I have an appointment with a cardiologist. I had some heart arrhythmia over the holidays. And we're getting it looked at. I'm going to have to go get some monitoring done. But at 50, not uncommon to have some heart palpitations, maybe some intermittent atrial fibrillation. So how do I sharpen my knives? I use sharpening stents. Okay, back to cheap knives. Here's another cheap knife. This is another cheap knife. These knives are not expensive. This is, I think, $45. This is an incredibly well done little slip joint. It's not expensive. These are with Rosecraft. These are done by Rosecraft Blades. Rosecraft Blades has done an incredible job with their slip joints. Most of them are very affordable. This one, Import Knife of the Year. This is a slip joint knife that they do. It's beautiful. It's done in smoke bone, gray bone. It's a nice D2 Warrenclyffe style folding knife in a sway back fashion. It's non-locking, so you can pretty much carry this almost anywhere, just like every slip joint. Like if you're in the UK, slip joint knives are the way to go. This is a cheap, these are $40, I believe, for this Barlow. And I mean, you're getting a very good work knife. It's still got a safety feature of that half stop on it. Very, very safe knife. If you're using a knife properly, that knife's never going to close on you, because as we know, if you use the back of your knife, like the trolls that like to pop in, you're a fucking idiot. Like if you're pushing on the back of that knife thinking it's not going to close on your hand, you're stupid. And yes, I'm talking about you, Benchmade, or I'm sorry, Cutting Board Knife Reviews. He did a video. I know we're off topic because we're talking about cheap knives, but he did a video where he tested this specific knife. And he held the knife like this and slammed it into a piece of wood like he was trying to drive a nail, and then was complaining about the fact that the lock failed and cut him badly. I was like, good, good. Injured? Good, good. You deserve that. That's one of the dumbest things you can do with a knife. So pretty much you can carry this knife anywhere because it doesn't lock. There's no lock on it. It's simply a spring with two flat spots. And these are cheap. These are cheap, extremely affordable, like $40-ish on these knives. And they are done incredibly well. It's great. These are cheap. Another cheap knife in like the under $20 range. Cold Steel makes this knife called the Kudu. I've recommended this knife for years. This knife is actually better. This $20 knife, actually, I think these are 12 right now, or they were along the holidays, like $12 or $10. This is 55. This was a way better knife than this. This is a piece of shit. You're gonna see a video about that. I curse a lot in that video. There's gonna be a lot of beeping. I filmed it earlier today. So this is we're talking, you could buy a bunch of these and give them out as gifts. And this is a very, very good knife. This is a very, very good knife. I took martial arts. I got news for you. Kung Fu is a worthless martial art. Don't believe the fucking movies. Kung Fu is a worthless martial art. If you don't believe me, there's a lot of other martial arts practitioners that are out there that talk about it. The fact is, Kung Fu is worthless. I don't recommend much of the stuff on Amazon unless you know what you're getting. This is a very, very good knife. Really good lock, really strong lock. Nice thin blade stock on this. This is a cheap knife, but it performs well above its price point. This is a great knife. This thing is incredibly good. But, well, even these, I would say these Swiss Army knives, these fall into the category of a cheap knife. Very affordable, easy to get. They're like I've had so many of these. As a matter of fact, I have 4 of these at the house right now in varying states of disrepair because these get used a lot. This is my preferred multi-tool. But there are, like, you have to learn to walk that fine line. What's the difference between those $5 folding? If you're getting a $5 knife, you're not getting anything good. You're going to get, where'd I put it? You're going to get this. So this is a $5 knife. I got this to show an example. Getting plastic handles. The action on it seems good because there's a spring in it, but if you look, that knife is going to... Now, if you need a knife for a day and you left your good knife at home, this may be what you want to just grab to do one small task and then throw it away. These are throwaway knives. This knife, I literally can... Is this one even sharp? That's the other thing. They're not going to be sharp. You're much more inclined to cut yourself with a dull knife than you are a sharp knife because you're going to use more pressure than you should. The likelihood of this knife failing is much more... It's just not going to be anything good. I don't have my cut-proof gloves or I would break this knife for you. Try and see if I can find my cut-proof gloves. I have cut-proof gloves for this. Let me see. Can I break it? Yeah. Look at that. That is a dangerous piece of shit knife. That's what you get for $50 or for $5. For $50, I get a reliable knife, good heat treat, and then ease of use. It's gonna cut, it's gonna hold up. I can use it for a long period of time. This knife at $50 will still last you a lifetime because of the construction standards and the way it's made and it's good quality materials. Don't buy $5 knives. $10 for a good... These are a great deal. These are $13. You know, when you start stepping up in price does not always step you up in quality. Like I said, this knife is horrible. This knife is... This was a $57 or $60 knife. It's a $13 knife. This is a way better knife. This is a piece of crap. The video you're going to see tomorrow, piece of crap. And when we did the video, I discovered that this piece that came out, the glue that's in there, it's not even glue. It may be maple syrup. I don't know if they used honey to put this in. This is not a good knife. You can get into more expensive knives that aren't good. It does happen. It happens a lot. But like at the price point, there's some knives. Some knives are sold with some gimmick. Like this is the Boker. Hang on a second. My daughter's texting me. My daughter's my daughter's in college and she's on campus. And she's texting me. Oh. She's watching my live feed. She's in between classes. She's in between classes right now, so she's watching my live feed. This is the Boker Kalashnikov, and it's very gimmicky, and this was a gift, and that's why it's here, or I would have thrown it away by now. This is not a good knife. So this came, lots of issues with it, but these weren't super cheap. I have to admit, surprisingly comfortable. I'm surprised at how comfortable it was. It does have some good points, but it's not a good knife. It's uncomfortable, it's got a crappy pocket clip. It's been sharpened once. It was sharpened just so I could do the video on it. It was a gift from one of my friends. Am I a manufacturer, retailer? I used to be a manufacturer. I used to make custom knives. Now I'm just a designer. I have knife designs that I've done. I don't sell anything. But these are not a quality knife, in my opinion. The mechanism on them is cheap. The mechanism on it is cheap. This is not the automatic version. It's really rough. It's just not a great knife. And for what you could pay for this, you could get some better knives. There's a lot of companies out there that are offering fairly budget knives. This was a gift. This was a gift. I wouldn't do that. I like the guy that sent this to me. It lives here because it was a gift. So if you guys know, anything that gets sent as a gift, it lives somewhere in this area, including one of the first gifts the channel ever got, which was Mr. Broccoli Skull. So if you have sent something, I guarantee it's somewhere close. And if Williams is watching, I do still have the miniature rubber chicken. So yeah, it's just the thing. If you sent a gift to the channel, it lives here. No, I'm not going to, because that's not your name. I can see it. Gifts from some of the paying members. This is a Goonies doubloon and things like that. I got challenge coins and stuff like that. Ganzo knives. That's how I was getting ready to say. Ganzo knives are very, very good budget knives for the money. I don't have. Do I? I do. I may. Let's look. There's companies out there that are offering really good knives for the money. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. I'm getting some knife rolls out here because I know I have some. There's my cut-proof gloves. They were back in here. These are my knife rolls. So there's knives in these. No. You already said it yourself. People see it. Why do I need to say it? Let's look in here. Here's some. This is a bunch of really good budget knives. As you can see here, there's some really, really good knives in this case that are at a budget offering. More Rosecraft blades. This is the Rosecraft Bara at $50 some. This thing's an awesome, awesome knife. This is a great little knife. I have carried this. I do have an issue with how thin the lock bar is. I carried this knife for a long time as a primary carry, and it comes in a lot of different colors. So. But, so Rosecraft Blades is offering a lot of budget options. CJRB and Artisan are as well. This is the CJR, this is a $50 knife. This is a CJRB RIA, one of the best budget gentleman's folders you're ever gonna come across. So there's some really, really good knives out there at a budget price. I do like a lot of the CJRB and Artisan stuff. That's why I went with Artisan for design. Here's a more expensive version of some of the CRKT stuff, or I'm sorry, the Artisan stuff. This one still is only about $150. This is probably one of the best knives you're ever going to find. This is a Ray Laconico design. This is the Sirius by Ray Laconico. Front flipper, thumb studs. This is just an incredible knife. So there's a lot of really good budget. This is going in I haven't had this in my pocket for a while. That one's staying out for a little bit. Put this one over here. Here's another good one and another bad one. Move these and we'll get back into those. Because we are going to talk about knives that are completely useless. This is not a good knife. This is a very cheap knife. This is, if you see this company logo, stay away from it. This is a $10 knife, $5 knife, $10 knife. I literally would not trust this knife to open a beer bottle with. Plastic handle, garbage compass that doesn't actually work. It's a survival knife. How many of you guys are old enough to remember when these were being sold on TV? Do you remember those? I do. So that's a garbage knife. Here is a very good budget knife. This is a $55 knife. I had this one set out for that specific purpose. This is a great knife. This is a $50 Best Techman Good Boy. It's an amazing, amazing knife. You can get these at Blade HQ. I have links to most of the major vendors down below. Knives ship free, GP knives, stuff like that. This is an incredible little knife for $55. Like I said, Rosecraft blades, if you're looking for a good knife at a budget price, really high quality, go check out Rosecraft blades. I have a coupon code. I always forget to tell you guys, I have a coupon code at Rosecraft blades. It is crazysharp, all one word, and it will save you 10%. This is one of my favorite little knives that has come out in a long time. It's nice and thin, things like that. So it's not a weapon, it's a tool. You fucking tool. Don't be a retard. Don't come in here and be stupid. A weapon. My name's Zerbad. Idiot. If your parents got divorced, how closely would they still be related? At any rate, great little knife. I'm not going to be nice to trolls anymore. I'm not even going to give people a warning. You come in, you be stupid. Quack attack, howdy. Do I have any that flick open with the press of a button? I have one. You're talking about a switchblade. How dare you? No, how dare you, sir? Ma'am, it, they, them, he, she. Pronouns. Fuck your pronouns. Sorry, I got on a tangent. I have a couple different versions. You're talking about some switchblades. I do have a couple. We've completely abandoned the format of the video. I have a couple. This is a push button out the side switchblade. This one is done by Heretic Knives. This is not a cheap knife. These were about $600 when they first came out. They're not as expensive now. When these first came out, they were, because these are customs. Push button switchblade. I don't know why it has the aperture. And then I have a couple out the fronts. They're not a push button, but they are an auto. So I have a couple of them. And I don't find them to be useful. They have a tendency in most places to be something you can't carry. So hang on a second. My wife just sent me a text. It's okay. You can do it when we get home. I will help you. My wife was involved in a minor accident yesterday, and we're dealing with the insurance company. She wasn't involved with a car-to-car accident. There was a car in front of her threw up a bunch of debris. What do I think about skiff bearings? Okay, so yeah, we can do that. Skiff bearings. Okay, now we're gonna. Skiff bearings are, and I appreciate his hustle. So hopefully no one gets offended when I say this. If you bought skiff bearings, you have wasted your money. I have never had a knife come with skiff bearings where they were smoother. As a matter of fact, the majority of knives I've had that people sent me with skiff bearings are less smooth than they were. So the first knife, I bought this knife because I had one come in for review. A guy sent me one. He's like, hey, do you want to see it? You might like it. So it came in. His came to me in April. And I took it apart and everything, and it was okay. And I bought my own. I bought my own, which is this one. I purchased this one, and immediately I noticed that out of box, this knife was much smoother than the other knife that I had with the skiff bearings. And I didn't realize I had skiff bearings. So I I talked to the guy, he said, yeah, I put skiff bearings in it, so yours is going to look different. And I have yet to really find one that comes in. Some of the smoothest knives I have run on steel bearings. I have a couple of very, very nice, here, let's pull these out. Some of you guys have probably never seen these. You guys saw me pull out the knife rolls. Let's pull out the expensive knife case from underneath the workbench. This is where my expensive knives live. So here, get these two. This is where the $1,000+ knives live. And people are like, I can't believe you spent that much. I was like, how much have you spent on video games? How much have you spent on firearms? I know guys that spend that much on a pen. So this is a Ferrum Forge Knife Works. No, Harbor Freight knives. I've seen them. I've never tried one, but I'm going to tell you right now, knowing metallurgy and being a knife maker, there's no, that the heat treat on them is jacked. And I've seen people that have tested them and they're horrible. The inconsistent heat treat, it's just a really cheap steel. I don't even buy, even when I was making knives, I didn't buy tools from Harbor Freight. This knife runs on bearings, but it does not run on ceramic bearings. It runs on small steel bearings in a small cage. This is a $700 knife, and it's smoother than almost any knife I have that runs on ceramic bearings. Everybody's like, oh, you got to have ceramic bearings. They're smoother, they're this, they're that. No. What's going to make a difference is the size of the bearings and the number. So the bigger the ball bearing, the bigger the surface contact. The more of them, the more surface contact. More ball bearings can give you some stability if you need it around your pivot, but this has a fairly large pivot. What it'll give you is a little bit of stability if you have a smaller pivot. So you have a wider bearing race with wider bearings, they're spread out. The larger the bearing, the more surface contact, the more of them, the more surface contact. More surface contact equals more friction. This is a $1,000 knife that runs on tiny steel bearings. Right? There's a misconception on some of these things that get said. Now, this is not, like if you bought this original knife, it wouldn't be $1,000. Like if you bought this version of, if you bought the knife from them when it was getting pre-ordered, you'd pay about $550 for this knife. This has been hand carved. I think we did a full collection sometime. I mean, it takes forever. It would take hours. I've done it before on a live, but I have so many knives, it would literally take us hours. So this knife, super expensive, super high quality, one of the best knives you will ever find, runs on very, very small steel bearings, right? And it just always amazes me that people, so the skiff bearings are a waste of money. Can you see my very favorite? It's this one. We've already been, this is my favorite knife. I carry this every day. Like I've got hundreds of knives. This always is in my pocket. There's usually something else in my pocket as well, but I carry this every day. Microtech Amphibian. So the skiff bearings are a waste of money. 9 times out of 10, people will get knives in and they're like, oh, the action's not good and this and that. And they don't look at the steps that they can take to clean that action up. 9 times out of 10, it's a matter of lubrication and cleanliness. And I don't mean like tear this knife apart and clean it out and put it back together. That's not what you need to do. 9 times out of 10, you can take this, run it under some hot water in the sink, rinse it out really good because there's space between those bearings. Just do this a few times under the hot running water and then simply reapply some lubricant from the top on either side, allow the capillary action to suck it in, give it a few minutes, move the pivot around and put those couple drops of oil. I don't I don't like WD-40 because the solvent, it's going to, I mean, if you're cleaning it out, yeah, and then you can wash it out with some soapy water. If you're looking to fix the action on a knife, 9 times out of 10, 2 drops of KPL is going to fix your issues. Skiff bearings are going to get every bit as gritty. They're going to get every bit as dirty. They're usually multi-row bearing system with more bearings. And like I said, more bearings equals more surface contact equals more friction. There's just no two ways about it. The smaller the bearings, the less contact, I mean, equals the less friction. Some of the smoothest knives I have ever owned ran on a tiny caged bearing race with stainless steel bearings. It's a true and factual thing. Elliott Williamson, for years at Fair and Forge Knife Works, used these tiny, tiny little bearings. I don't know what you're talking about, Banana Republic. I think I missed some. What knife were you talking about? I had a number 49 on MPs. I don't know what knife that is. I'm trying to see. I think I missed some comments. Oh yeah, you like my coffee cup? Let me see here. James Jones, what knife are you talking about? Lake Charles, Meet the Spyderco? I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you, Spydercos are kind of an anomaly. Spydercos, a lot of them, especially like their compression lock ones, they run on washers. I prefer bearings, but these work really, really well. Really smooth action. They do a great job. A lot of it's because the way the pivot is shouldered and the washers are in there, and so they're pinched in between. So there's a set gap in there. The tolerance is built in. These do not run well on grease. This knife, oh, the EDC, I don't like the EMP EDC. It absolutely was gritty and nasty. The first one that I saw was great. The second one was the second run, and it was a larger one, and I didn't like it. So this is dirty, but this is the Chris Reese Sebenza. If you run this on oil, it doesn't feel right. It runs on washers. You got to put the fluorinated grease in it, and it does great on that. It is super smooth and silky. If you put oil in it, it feels like crap. This also runs on washers. And if you put grease in it, it runs like crap and it feels gummy and all that. They both run on washers, but you get completely different results by swapping the lubricants. This one has to have grease. This one has to have oil. I mean, they do a great job with these. But at any rate, jeweler's oil is for jewelers. Gun oil is for guns. Knife pivot lube is for knife. People argue with me. They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. This was specifically designed for knives. They have 3 different types. This is the heavy, this is the regular, and this is the ultra light. I use this on my autos, I use this on the pivots, and I use this on the detent balls. I'm not going to use, I'm going to use something that's specifically made for it. I'm saying, like, some people like dial rod and tool oil, and I'm like, I don't find it does as good. Oh, you can use 3 and 2. I'm like, if you're happy with the lubricant, that's fine. I just recommend if you have something that is made for a specific purpose. Nano oil was made for firearms. I don't use nano oil on my firearms anymore. I use it on my, I don't use nano oil on my knives anymore. That's originally what was getting sent. I personally don't like nano oil on my knives. I do like it on my handguns. So I keep nano oil around because it was made for firearms. As a matter of fact, John Grimsmo still ships knives with a small tube of nano oil. And so when I can't find the one that belongs in my gun safe, I go grab my Grimsmo Norseman case and I pull out the nano oil and I use it because these little pin oilers, they get misplaced pretty easily. And so it just, sometimes it falls in the cleaning kit and I can't find it when I'm cleaning my firearms. So I don't use that on that knife anymore. I use KPL, knife pivot lube. There's a lot to be said for having something specific. Now, what was this? Suit and Tie Guy just got the Sage 5 and Rex 121 and it's bee's knees until you have to sharpen it. And then you're probably going to either put it on a fixtured system and run into the issues with chipping and things like that if you don't have the proper stones, or you're going to reach out to someone like me that specifically has all the stuff you need to sharpen that. Rex 121 is a very specific steel that will meet the specific needs of specific people. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're cutting with that knife, Suit and Tie Guy, and I mean, if you like Rex 121 and Maximum, that's fine. I don't. But I'm telling you right now, I've seen enough people be cutting with that steel and flex the blade and just take a big chunk out of their knife. There are some exceptions with heat treats. There's some guys that do a really good job of heat treat. And guys, if you're here and you haven't dropped a like, I would appreciate it. It would be really cool of you. I'd love you forever. Yeah, it's chippy as fuck. You're right. And when you get ready to sharpen it, if you don't have the right stuff to do it, you're going to run into problems. The neighbor. I don't personally like it. I don't personally like it. You know what? I have gone back to things that I used to like back in the day, and I never stopped liking them. I like some of the more budget steels. This knife is in 14C28N. This was my budget knife of the year. The heat treat on this is just about perfect. It's really easy to maintain and sharpen. 14C28N it's the first steel. If I remember right, it was either this or RWL34. That was the first steel that was designed for the knife industry. And the heat treat and everything on this is just perfect. Get in the house. Get in the house. In the house. No, house. House. Sorry, there's a stray dog walking around. In the house. I can't leave him. He's too sweet, and he'll go out there thinking he can play, and then that dog will tear him up. We have some stray dogs in my neighborhood. I live really close to the border. And there's stray like wild dogs that walk into our neighborhood sometimes. And my dog's just too sweet. He'll just go out there and think he can just play. So 14C28N is one of those steels that has been around for a very long time. It's easy to maintain. It's easy to use. It's not expensive to buy. And you can get some really, really good knives. And the fact is, some people, it's Sandvik. I can't remember what company, but so most people in the knife industry think that they need like the super high-end super steels. Some people do. Some people need that additional edge retention. Some people need that super fine grain structure for specific tools. The majority of people in the knife world that are doing, they are never going to utilize that steel for what it was designed for. The capabilities of that steel. The super high edge retention, people are going to sharpen it more often than they need to. People are going, it's a waste of your money at some point for a lot of people. I'm not saying everyone. There's about I would say probably 1% of the knife world needs the super steels out there. Outdoorsmen, you know, people that have these jobs that require, you know, military guys, outdoorsmen, law enforcement, specific things that they need out of their knife. For the majority of the people that own knives, if you gave them 14C28N and then gave them S90V, they would never notice the difference. They wouldn't. They're never going to. Most people don't even use their knives. I am one of the exceptions to the rule. I use my knives all the time. I use knives for everything. Like things that I could have used other tools for, I use knives. My wife's like, get a pair of scissors. Why? I've got a knife. Where's the fingernail clippers? I don't know. I use a knife. You know, just those things. And I grew up in a country. I always had a knife. You want something good. Right. Yeah, I know. But for me, even me, 14C28N1's about being one of the best all-around steels out there, and you're not paying a premium for it. You can get a really, really good knife at a good price in a steel that is comparable to most of the other steels that are out there for the average user. But people get their head wrapped around, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, I gotta chase the Rockwell hardness. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. And don't get me wrong, I made my knives in 20 CV, and I made them, when I made custom knives, my heat treat on them was well above what you're getting out of a factory. I did custom heat treat on my knives. This knife, 20 CV, super hard. It's a great, great knife, by the way. If you guys can find, they are a bit pricey. This is the mid-tech version. This is the handmade version, like the hand-built version of this knife. This is the Archbishop from Fair and Forge Knife Works. If you can find the Archbishop 2.0 or the 3.0 that are out there, you can absolutely guarantee that you're getting a great, great knife. So this is one of Elliot's hand-built knives, and I know that we've gotten off topic again, but what's your opinion on Weiss HRC? Could it be a little higher? Well, here's the thing. Elliot Williamson, the guy that taught me how to make knives, the guy that designed this knife, is the reason that We Knife Company is using 20 CV. When my knife got made in 20 CV, he and I were both dealing with We Knife Company, and I said I wanted my knife done in 20 CV. The heat treat that Elliot used for 20 CV was his production heat treat, not his custom heat treat, because if you go much harder than currently what We Knife Company is running on 20 CV, you can't grind it. That's your problem. So a custom, hey, that's my buddy Matt. Hey Matt, don't forget I still have this and your Gerber Mark II, and I have to do a video about the Gerber dagger. So Matt's the one that let me borrow this beautiful knife that I'm still trying to get more information on. I think we found about all we're going to find on it, but this is a very, very rare Gerber International boot knife. So at any rate, We Knife Company's heat treat was based on the heat treat that Elliot was using when he would send blades off to be ground. When he sent his first knives off to be double disc ground and have the profiles, when he was not doing them in-house full handmade, which would make them thousands of dollars. He was trying to get the price point down to do mid-tech style. They wound up being around $550. He would do the heat treat on them and then send them out. And Larkin, the company that does a lot of the bevel grinds and double disc grinds for most knife companies in the United States, told him, we can't do that heat treat ever again. They burned up their wheels. So the heat treat that is on, the production heat treat that is on We Knife Company's 20 CV, hey, what's up, Bladed Ginger, that is on my knife, is Elliot's production heat treat, and it's about the best heat treat you're gonna get on 20 CV. People are like, oh, you could run it harder. Yeah, you're gonna run into issues with it. You'll lose, if you go much harder than what We Knife Company is running their 20 CV at, you'll lose a lot of the corrosion resistance. You lose a lot of it because as it gets harder and you're forming more carbides, you lose the amount of chromium. So now you're combining chromium carbide, you're making chromium carbide, so you're You basically are combining that chromium with the carbon, and it's locked into the grain structure of the steel. So there's less of it at the surface to form chromium oxide, which is what prevents rust in a stainless steel. So there's less available chromium to form a chromium oxide at the surface, so you get more rust. That's the first thing you're going to give up on. And if you go much harder, a lot of people are going to have problems sharpening it. So, you know, We Knife Company kind of is just running the heat treat protocol that's going to get you the best out of a production heat treat on 20 CV. And it's 100%. You guys can thank Elliott Williamson for We Knife Company even making anything in 20 CV. That would not have happened if Elliott had not worked out the deal to get all of that done and helped We Knife Company figure out how to procure it, who to talk to, and then run the heat treats. So getting ready to say, Matt knows, Matt Martino, he knows what a custom heat treat coming out of that shop feels like. He has a couple knives that I made for him that are well above 67 Rockwell. Well above 67 Rockwell. You can cut glass with them. You can score glass with those knives, and you guys saw me do it in a video. But yeah, you don't need... Oh, no problem, Knives and Pete's. People get their head wrapped around oh, I've got to have this steel, and I got to have that, and I got to get this. It's a lot of times like an older guy that buys a Corvette. You know he's not going to... Like these old guys you see driving a Porsche or a Ferrari, you know that they're not going out there and doing what they should be doing. Those cars, you should not be able to buy a Ferrari or a Corvette if you're over 60. Because you know most of those guys are not going out and using that to its proper, to how it was designed to be used, right? No, I'm not shouting out anyone. Sorry, not sorry. And it's the same with steel. Look at super steels as the supercars of the knife industry. Not everybody needs a Ferrari. Some people just need a Volkswagen. I happen to own a Volkswagen, and it's a diesel. I am rocking the Volkswagen steel of the knife industry. So thank you, Tino. I usually do it for a 24-hour period, but 300 seconds is it a Scirocco? No, it's a Volkswagen. It's a Golf. You can't get a Scirocco in the States. Scirocco's, I believe, are only sold overseas. But I have a Volkswagen Golf. And I love it. It's a great little car. Diesel, gets good mileage. It's still fast because it's a turbo diesel. I fucking love it. So what do you guys, so we got like, typically I run this, we'll go for the next 20 minutes. What questions do you guys have? Like what knives do you have? And like, ask me my opinion on it. D2 steel can be very good. Bladed Ginger, D2 steel can be very good. I like D2 for some things. However, it is much more prone to rust. This one, the video you guys are going to see in the next few days about this absolute piece of dog excrement. This is a D2 blade, and of all the finishes to put on D2, they decided to do a blasted finish, which means that the pores of that steel are open. It's going to rust horribly. I don't like a blasted finish to begin with. This knife is horrible. This knife is horrible, and I was drunk on New Year's, and I saw all the comments telling me, a lot of guys, you probably saw the short, a lot of guys were telling me if I like this knife, I should check this one out. This is a very budget Navaja style knife. They're really similar in design and everything, which it is very, very similar to a traditional Navaja, as is this. This is garbage. This is like honestly the worst knife I've ever purchased. Not only does it look cheap, it feels cheap. There's so many things wrong with it. You can't get rid of blade play. And this is another knife that literally, look at this. Yeah. I may have put a permanent bend in that. Oh yeah, I definitely put a permanent bend in that. I'm never going to carry this knife. I'm never going to use it. It's a piece of trash. I mean, granted, I'm a big dude. Well, don't forget, I want to put this in perspective, knives and pizza. Nico, if Tino is still here, he can tell you. I can, I fuck some shit up. I'm good at breaking things. I have strong enough hands. I broke the chuck mechanism in a drill press one time and had to buy Elliott Williamson. I mean, I could have just bought a new, I could have easily just bought a new drill chuck, but the fact was they needed another drill press. So I just bought a cheap drill press for the shop because I was trying to drill. We didn't have any. So if you guys don't know, like hand drills for drill, for like a hand, like a drill versus drill press bits, the drills that go in them are different. They have a square chuck so you can lock it down. We didn't have any of those. We just had the round hand drills that you would use in a Makita for drilling wood. And I'm trying to drill a hole in metal and the drill bit kept slipping. And I grabbed the drill chuck key and I'm like, I'm gonna tighten this down to the point where it won't come out. And then I felt it break and then you could just spin it. And Elliot looked at me and he goes, did you just break the chuck on my drill press? And I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, cool. I'm not the only one that's strong enough to do shit like that. I can do stuff. I can bend a lot of things that aren't supposed to be bent. That one now has a permanent bend. But that's okay because it's a horrible knife, and you're going to see the video about that coming up. There's a lot of cursing in that one. I really was very disappointed in my purchase. Hopefully, when the XL version of this knife shows up, it's supposed to be today, but we're going to check. We'll check shipping. Oh, wow, there's been a lot of views on this one. Sorry, guys, I haven't been checking. There is currently has been 5.2K views on this. Do I like fixed blades? I love fixed blades. If you had been here when we were talking about earlier, Riley, one of my most carried knives is this. This is the Lon Humphrey Customs Tucson. It's an incredible knife, and you can tell by the polish of that leather and how conformed it is. This gets carried daily. Like I carry this for walks with the dog, things like that. Let's check the shipping on. I was supposed to already get my XL Blade HQ. Your order is shipped. Tracking number. So I was supposed to have it already. And it says scheduled today by end of day, but it says that it's still in Henderson, Nevada. It says it's still in Henderson, Nevada. So I don't think that I'm going to receive my extra large Espada. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really curious. So there's a sweet spot for knives. Every knife has a sweet spot. I have some knives that there's multiple versions of. Like there's a large, like there's a regular, then there's a large, then there's an XL. That was, one of them that Tino bought for me. It was the Kaiser Begletter. So Kaiser Begletter, the first one came out and it was an okay knife. Then the Mini came out and it was great. It was okay. I mean, it was better. Then the XL came out and it was amazing. So there's always a sweet spot for certain knives. Begletter XL was the best choice for me. It wound up being awesome. It's in my case. It still gets carried a lot. Some knives, I like the Mini version better. There's a lot of times that I like the Mini version better. You just wind up with a better feel in that knife. Then there's some that just the original version, like that middle version, winds up being better. Case in point, Where'd I put it? I had another Spyderco. So these two knives, super, super similar. While I do agree that this is probably the best EDC knife on the market, this is the Para 2, which is a smaller version of the Military 2. Now, there is an even smaller one that is called, no, I'm sorry, the PM, this is the PM2, the Paramilitary 2, the Military 2. Then there is one called the Para 3. It's not the Paramilitary, it's not the PM3. There is one called the Para 3, which is even smaller than this. This is my favorite. This is probably the best all-around EDC, and the Para 3 is trash, in my opinion. Some people love it. I don't find it to be useful. If you want to know the sweet spot for the Para line, the military style lines with the Para 3, the PM2, and the military, the sweet spot for 99% of people in the country is going to be this. And to be honest, this is probably the best all-around knife you're ever going to find. I personally like this knife better, but I can tell you this is more functional. Sometimes our opinions aren't based on functionality. I love this knife way more than I like this one, but I carry this knife a lot more than I carry that one. It's just more functional. So size can be a factor. And then other things. There's so many things that can be a factor in knives. I have to watch on the way. It says snow. Para 3 was too stubby and the blade to handle ratio was weird. Did Spyderco shut down? No, absolutely not. They're actually killing it. As an American company, I do know they have some knives that they have a lot of knives that are made in Taiwan, but they're, as far as American manufacturing, they're one of the more prolific companies out there, and they're still offering a good, like, their knives are a little bit expensive. These are somewhere around 200 something. I think I paid $250 for this, but they're still good. You're getting a good bang for your buck. You're getting good bang for your, oh, live now. Residents are being evacuated due to fast moving. I think we have a fire somewhere, which could explain why I'm smelling smoke. Do I like Oliver Anthony music? I like all music. I really do. I haven't found any music I don't like, because I love everybody, because I'm a fucking ray of sunshine. Hate from Switzerland. Well, right back at you. Are you a ray of sunshine as well? Little Titan? I'm not even gonna take that down. I don't care. That's, I mean, if you could be up front, hey, I'm cool with it. I've heard some of Oliver Anthony's music. I've heard it. It's not like I go out of my way. I just put my iPod in the car on random shuffle, and you never know what's going to come out of it. What is this video? This is held for review. I'm not putting that one up. Ah, why not? I don't care. We'll show it. I don't think there's any kids watching this. They're all at school. Yeah. I've got to get sober is the best. I'm gonna have to look at it. I may check it out. I do have some filming I could do. Now, I did want to talk about knives that are useless, in my opinion. It's just a habit. I do have younger fans that do watch. I do have younger subscribers that are, you know, my stuff is never listed as for children, but okay. These are knives that I absolutely don't understand why they're popular. And I have one. These. Mainly because of the cost. So this is basically an expensive Husky box cutter knife. And I can understand if you're someone that uses one of these a lot, that you may want something like this. But the utilitarian factor of this is lost, because I have a Husky box cutter. I think it's right over here. I have one And we've talked about this before. Yeah, it's right here. I got this for a video to do a comparison. I literally bought this to do a comparison video on these because I thought these were useless. So you're not losing. Okay, so this is the Husky. It is a little bit thicker. Has a pocket clip. It's a box cutter. Has a pocket clip. It's a box cutter. This is actually going to be harder to use if you're wearing gloves. This locks itself open, just like this does. Swap your blade. Now, the thing that this has going for it is this, the lock mechanism that holds this in place, the way this sits, this end of the blade always winds up getting chipped up and wasted. So instead of having something like this where it locks in and it slides in to lock, you gotta like play with it to get it in. And people are like, well, yeah, but now you have more cutting surface. But you really don't, because this gets in the way. So you still only have that same amount of cutting ability. You see what I'm saying? This gets in your way. Now, here's the other one. If I'm using this, which we had these on, Tino knows, we had these on job sites. Well, we had these on job sites. If I'm using this one, and this gets dull, which it's going to if you're cutting fist queen or filter fabric or anything that you're cutting on a job site, because it's going to be covered with dirt, it's going to be covered with sand, it's going to be covered with mud. I have to go all the way back down to the trailer and grab a blade out of one of these and replace it, and then go all the way back up to where I'm working. Or I have to go to the truck where these are sitting and then go all the way back up to where I'm working. You see that? There's 4 more blades in here. And like I said, because the lock mechanism on this one isn't something that's going to screw it up, I can just take this blade and flip it around and use both ends of it. If you are buying, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is a cheap one. There are some people that are buying these blade carriers and then putting Damascus blades in them. And do you need a screwdriver? No, you don't. In all honesty, you don't. The mechanism on it's really cool. It rolls. You basically do, but you have to take the screw completely out of this one. So you can use your thumb and unlock it and lock it. And it's still, you know, I think you can do it without taking the screw all the way out, but it has never worked right for me, and I'm afraid I'm gonna cut myself because these are sharp. There are some knife makers, and I'm friends with them, and I get it. Man, make your money. There are some guys that make switchblade out the front versions of these, and they're charging people an insane amount of money for a stupid take on something that you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy 3 of for the price of 1 of these. And when you buy one of these, I'm going to tell you right now, when I bought this, it came with blades. I bought this specifically for a video because the company sent me this. And I do appreciate like how comfortable this is and things like that. And for some people, this might be something they want. I'm not that person. And so I did do the video of it, and I gave you the good points and the bad points. I told them, like, I never give anything a blanket review. If you send me a free knife, if it's a garbage knife, you get a review of a garbage knife that you sent me for free. No one gets a pass because they sent me a knife. I went and bought this specifically. That's why it looks so nice. It looks brand new. When I bought this knife, it came with 4 replacement blades in here. Don't waste your money on stupid shit. As a matter of fact, don't waste your money on these. These are worthless. The only reason I still have this, because it's cool. And if you want to buy one of these because you think it's cool, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is much more utilitarian and useful than that. And I'm going to ridicule you, especially if you show me one with a fucking damn steel blade in it. That's like wiping before you poop. That don't make no goddamn sense. A damn steel utility knife blade. And I know you've seen them. If you're a knife guy, I know you've seen them. And you're like, I saw, the first time I saw one, I was like, is that seriously a Damasteel utility knife blade? I'm like, yeah, isn't that cool? I was like, no. That's as dumb as you can be and still live alone. Like that is, you need a state. That is, you need a state approved guardian. Like you need to, like you can't cook for yourself. You are so dumb that you need someone to follow you around to make sure you're safe. Like you would have to stay somewhere where there's a group dining facility because you can't even have a hot plate. That is as dumb as you can be and still live alone. Yes, I know, it's $450. And every time I look at it, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. There is every time I think of the expensive box cutters, think of Grant and Gavin Hawk, $500 or $600. And I'm like, guys, like at that point, you have more money than you should. I mean, that's fine. If that's, is that the one? Is it the Grant and Gavin Hawk shortcut? Hawk Knives shortcut. Yeah. How? $475. $475. I mean, $475. And it does, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't do the things that you can do. No, I don't. I don't. Mainly because I love the deadlock. I love the deadlock. I've had the deadlock on the channel. I have had some interactions with Grant and Gavin Hawk that have, well, prior to the father passing away. I've had some interactions with the folks over at Hawk Knives that have been less than stellar. And I basically have decided there's certain companies that just won't showcase their knives on my channel because it wasn't horrible, but it was also at a level that I was like, I don't feel comfortable sending people their direction. There's a difference between how you see, like when you deal with somebody at a knife show in public where there's other people around, and then you deal with them privately via online conversation. And so for me, I don't want to feel conflicted because if you're gonna deal with me at a show in a specific way, and then when we come back later and speak personally about something that we had spoke about, and it wasn't about getting a knife, it was something else. They didn't like screw me over on a knife. I wasn't trying to get a free knife from them. But if that's how you are to me, I'm definitely not going to send my subscribers your direction. I will not do anything. You will never see another Rick Hinderer knife on the channel. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care how much people love them. I don't care how many views that will drive to my channel. This channel was built for me to give you the best possible idea of what the knife is like. If it's a good knife, it gets a good review. I try to point out all the good things. The flip side of that is you could make the best knife in the world, and if you're a garbage person and you treat your customers, like trash, and you treat the general public like trash, it is not, I don't feel comfortable. Like I want all the buyers to have the best possible experience. And so therefore I'm not going to send my subscribers your direction. because then they're going to get treated like dog crap. And they're going to come back and say, well, Mike told me to get this knife and they treated me like crap. So maybe he doesn't know, or maybe he just doesn't care, or maybe he's a paid shill. You treat people like crap, you don't get knives reviewed on my channel. It's just the way it is. So nice at shows, but different behind the scenes. Absolutely. Absolutely. When their knife got the first ever perfect review, they were all on it. They were cool. They were nice and stuff like that. We talked at a show, and I hadn't ever really talked to them. We talked at a show. We talked about doing some stuff. We talked about a couple things. It was never about getting a knife. And then for them to turn around and, like, in public treat me like I was a number one, and then in private treat me like I was a homeless dude. It left a bad taste in my mouth, and I heard other people say, at shows they're great. As a customer, they're not. So, well, that absolutely was not my knife, because that FedEx truck just drove right by my house. So I was hoping maybe they just hadn't updated their stuff. So you will find that with knife companies. They'll be really cool to you up face. I'll tell you what. Would it be a good trade? Oh, yes. Okay, so this is the PM2 in S90V. This is the best knife you're going to ever buy. This is the best EDC knife on the market. That's not true. This is the best knife you're ever going to buy. This is the best EDC knife on the market. So yes, absolutely. Let me give you a different perspective. I hate Emerson knives. I think they're poorly made. I think they're cheap. I don't like their designs. I don't like the way they do things. I think they need to upgrade their hardware and all these things. I say this all the time. However, I love Ernie Emerson. And Ernie Emerson knows that I bash his knives every time I get a chance. And he doesn't care. You know why? Because Ernie is an awesome, awesome dude. Ernie has invited me to come and visit every time I see him. And Ernie knows me. Ernie's seen my videos. Ernie has responded to my critiques of his items, and he doesn't care. He's like, being honest. Every time I see Ernie at a show, he's like, come here. Give me a glass. Go get a glass. Go get a glass. And he's pouring me fucking whiskey. I love Ernie Emerson. Everyone that works for Ernie Emerson hates me. And if Tino's still here, he may have seen it at shows. Ernie Emerson and I get along great. Everyone at his table that works for him looks at me like I'm the Antichrist. Like they want to drag me in a parking lot and light me on fire. I would hands down absolutely recommend you, if you like Ernie Emerson's knives, absolutely recommend buying them. I don't think they're worth the money. He knows that I don't think they're the money. He's just a great dude. And every time, without fail, hands down, enjoy spending time with Ernie Emerson. And so they aren't wrong. But Tino, you know what I'm talking about. Remember we talked about it. Like Ernie pulled me aside and he was like, here, here's some whiskey. Have you tried the new coffee? Have you done that? Ernie and I get along great. I don't trust that I could go to Ernie's factory, Ernie's shop, and not get beat to death in the parking lot. And he knows I bash his knives, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. His whole thing is like, hey, man, you're honest. It's your honest opinion. It doesn't affect me. I'm still selling knives. And I'm like, that's fucking fair. And I just love the dude. I absolutely do. So there's just some knife makers that just are garbage people. You'll find that in the knife world if you start going to shows. Yeah, Ernie Emerson is great. He was trying to keep me away from each other. You said hi, and the interaction was complete opposite of what I expected. Yeah. Tino was like, I can't. Now, Spyderco, when Eric was running the show, I couldn't go over there. I've changed my opinion of Spyderco over the years. Benchmade, I will never do another Spyderco. I'm not sorry, Benchmade. I own one Benchmade. I will never buy another Benchmade. The only Benchmade I own, I didn't buy. I used to own some Benchmades. They are a garbage company. They've got garbage business practices. They've got garbage QA. Their knives are garbage. And to tell you the truth, that gives me a sullied opinion of the people that work there. Now, the people I have not met that work from Benchmade are great. I can't do it. I can't do it. The Kaiser, so for me, the two knives that I think of for Kaiser that would be the best, either Kaiser Mini Roach. Well, as a matter of fact, hang on. I will grab them. We'll run this a little bit longer. I do have to do some other things, so we're not going to go too much longer. But the two knives that I would say, well, three. We'll grab the three that I think are the best Kaiser knives you're going to find. Because they truly are. These are the best Kaiser knives, in my opinion. So, this is the Kaiser Mini Roach. And this thing is so much better than the larger version. This is a really good one. In my opinion, the best one they have is the Begleiter XL, the button lock Begleiter XL, micarta. This thing is great. This is probably the best knife they make. And if you want to talk about the coolest knife they make, this is the Grazioso. This is designed by my buddy Sharif Manganis. And he did a great job with this design. And Kaiser did a great job with the execution on this. Nice little recurve, beautiful, beautiful styling on this, but it's a very, very functional knife. These are the two best. Like I would say, like this one, the action on this is insane. The action on this little knife is insane. It comes in a couple different versions. There's the titanium version. This one is the copper and G10. There's a brass and micarta. Just great. And then this one. These are the two best that they have. I missed the flipper tab on that. Sorry, don't blame me. This button lock Begleiter XL is just amazing. This was a gift. This is a Christmas gift. I believe this was a Christmas gift a couple years ago from my buddy Tino, Matt Martino, that was just here. I hate the 940. I thought I always wanted one. The 940 I have was a gift. It was given to me at a knife show by one of my subscribers. All I had to do was, they were like, put a new blade in it. He's like, I've already got a 940 that I carry. So I took it over to the Benchmade table. I will say, Benchmade put a new blade in that 940 for me for free. So when it arrived, the knife arrived with a blade in it. I was like, guys, how do I pay for this? And they're like, oh, it says here that it was paid in full. And I was like, okay. They put a new blade in it for me for free. So I will say that. I think the PM2 itself, so I said the PM2 and S90V is one of the best EDC. I think the PM2 is the best EDC knife on the market. If you get it in S90V, it's really good. I will tell you, I would go out of my way to find the PM2 in Crewwear, the Crew Carta version. So Crewwear and micarta. This is in Crewwear. I've had this knife since April, and I use it a lot. And it still has factory edge, and it is still shaving sharp. Hands down, Spyderco's Crewwear, and I mean, you can see the wear pattern on the blade from getting used. It's not like this doesn't get used. This has cut up more cardboard than I ever expected, and it's still, just touch it on a strop, still shaving sharp. So I would say the PM2 and Crewwear and micarta, probably the best option if you want something like that. But you are going to have to worry about a little bit of corrosion and patina, so you just put some beeswax on it, some Vaseline, like the trolls like to keep, so they can have their big buck boyfriend spread their cheeks. Crewwear. Spyderco's Crewwear is amazing. You will have to deal with maintaining it to keep it from rusting. That would be the only caveat to that. PM2, absolutely the best EDC knife that you can buy, and it's affordable. If you can get the S90V, it's great. S90V is one of my favorite steels. I think that the Crewware is a little bit better. And if they had a Crewware option where it was DLC coded, it'd be perfect. How did you get the little thing on the lock? Okay, so this is the CME. It's the compression made easy. You can get these over at OCD for EDC. I have one on each of them. It thickens up the lock so you don't have to reach in as far, and it basically turns the compression lock into like a button lock. So you just basically pinch on it, and you can deploy it that way as well. I've got a cut on my finger and it's uncomfortable. I cut my finger when I was filming a video the other day. So it's basically, it thickens that up so you don't have to reach in on the compression lock. That's gonna make my day of filming unpleasant. I filmed a video already this morning. I gotta film one more. So you don't have to put your finger in the lock. It super glue. So you basically, it comes, you get a little paper shim, and then you put a drop of super glue on this and you super glue it to the lock bar, because you're not, it's just on there. You're not tipping it, you're not pulling or prying on it. So you just put a couple drops of super glue on it and it stays put. And if you want to take it off, just pop it off. You can just like drop some acetone on there. But they're like 3D printed. Here, I'll show you. Here, hang on. Just a little 3D printed piece. They come in different colors. They have them for different knives. And so you just put a piece of paper under here to shim it so that it travels cleanly. And it just adds that little bit of thickness so you don't have to reach all the way down in there. Like I said, did the same thing with, I like this one. Their newer ones are textured. And so this one has a little bit more grip. So I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. You can also get some cool stuff. That is a Glow Rhino tritium, basically a radioactive butt plug for this knife. So, but yeah, guys, I am gonna have to get off of here. I do have to finish up that insurance claim. My wife was driving up to Los Angeles with some friends. That was their last day before they went back to work after the holidays. My wife works for the school district. And so she was driving up to Los Angeles with some friends, and someone hit a box and threw a big chunk of wood up into her front grill. And so I have to get pictures and stuff. So I do have to deal with that. And I want to film one more video. I've got to try and get this. I think I've got all the information I need. This is probably one of the videos I'm filming today. So hey, you know what, Badman? I don't give a shit. Your personal issues are your personal issues, and you know what? You need to find someplace else to vent them. Because I don't care. I'm not your therapist. BetterHelp.com. Tired of trolls. I'm not going to be nice anymore. Like, people are like, you're being mean. I don't care if you go running for the razors. Eat a dick. All right, guys, on that note, just remember, I am a ray of fucking sunshine, and I will see you guys in the next live feed. Don't know what's going on with the new job. We'll see. I might do one Thursday. But there will be a video going up tomorrow, and if you haven't followed the channel, there's a lot of videos. You can check out a bunch of stuff. I got all kinds of stuff. Use coupon code crazysharp at BetterHelp for 10% off. There you go. I'll see you guys later. Go check out my playlist of knife review videos. I forget to add things to the playlist. So I'll see you guys later.